So let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
We need to develop a security operation there that is, it doesn't have to be American, but it has to be not connected to Hamas and not connected to the United Nations. Neither of those have been able to deliver. If President Trump can put that in place, then Israel will be secure and safe.
That is Mike Pompeo, relentless. Trump administration's relentless pursuit of peace in the Middle East is laudable and noteworthy as Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are back in the region. Aid is pouring in to Gaza, and the ceasefire is holding. And guess what? The Houthis said, we're going to stop the attacks.
Number 2.
I said to him, let's go to the place that's the most challenging. And he said, well, we're going to go to Berkeley then. And it was challenging. But I wish it was challenging in a way that was really what this country is set to do, which is free speech. And Berkeley is the home of free speech. And yet all of a sudden, that was the place where free speech on campus was really enshrined at the university.
Turning Point wraps up their Salute to Charlie Kirk tour, and sadly, violence rages in their final stop. This time, there'll be consequences. I'll explain.
Number 1.
The word of the day is terrible, 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 terrible. To quote another Charles Barkley when it comes to Chuck Schumer. Look at this. Least popular Dem Senate leader ever. He's underwater with Democrats. His own party, he's underwater.
It's over. The shutdown should end in a few hours, and Dems infighting is raging at a level I was not expecting. Why didn't they focus on their last election? They have a lot to celebrate. We'll discuss it. But first, let's talk about the world. We're privileged to have with us the former Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, who's also going to be on with me on One Nation on Sunday. Welcome, Mr. Prime Minister. Great to see you.
Great to be here, Brian.
And you told me you lived here for a while, right?
Oh, yeah, I did. I was running a high-tech company for 5 years from Manhattan. You know that there's hundreds of Israeli companies, high-tech companies in the city.
What are high-tech companies?
High-tech companies, software companies, fintech, financial technology, then creating about 30,000 jobs in the city. It's people are not aware of it, but it's second only to Silicon Valley.
So we got the second largest Jewish population in the world after Israel,
That's
right
true.
here in New York City.
That's true.
So when we elect a mayor who's going to take over in January, that all his comments and statements are seen to be anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic. Does that concern you?
It does. It does. We're fairly shocked to see a mayor who is so obsessed with Israel. He's got a city to run, and he won't stop talking about all the actions that he's going to try and take against Israel. I assume that we'll get over this just like we got over other issues. But yeah, this was my home for 5 years, and I wouldn't want to see Israeli companies, the hundreds of Israeli companies, as I said, that are creating tens of thousands of jobs, leaving New York because of this guy.
I think what you're saying is you got leverage. We can go anywhere.
Well, yeah.
And you don't need to be here anymore.
We don't have to be here. It's a beautiful city. I love New York. I truly love the city. I love Manhattan. We lived in the Upper East Side, and it was great doing business here. But if it becomes uncomfortable, if it becomes an unpleasant place where we're anti-Semitic or anti-Israel, lots of companies are just going to move. They can go easily to Florida. They can go to Texas. They can go anywhere.
So, what's pretty amazing is that, when we watch these protests crop up 2 years ago on college campuses, we found out there's almost a direct link between Hamas praising these colleges for standing up and some of the funding from these organizations. Do you think we've worked hard enough to unwind some of the linkages between the two?
I think there's mass amount of money that went in for the past 20 years or so into these campuses, preparing for that day, because, it already started on October 7th, on the eve of October 7th, while Israelis were being murdered in kibbutzim and cities around Gaza in the south. Already campuses were blaming Israel. This was 3 weeks before we entered Gaza. So clearly it was a prepared attack on Israel, on Jews, and I think they've lost their way, and I think it is a wake-up call.
So I want you to hear what Kamala Harris, we dodged a bullet in my view. You don't have to weigh in if you don't want to, when she lost substantially. Here's what she said that President Biden did wrong since October 7th and, with Israel. Cut 21.
And I will tell you, A lot of what this process has been for me has been about reflection. Look, we should have done more as an administration. We should have done more. We should have spoken publicly about our criticism of the way that Netanyahu and his government were executing this war. We should have used, we had more levers in terms of leverage that we did not use.
All right, so you get her school of thought, and you also heard the cheers. That's where the Democrats are at right now. I think President Biden did a lot to hold back certain weapon systems and decide how long you had to stay out of Rafah, for example. Remember that? Your thoughts about what she would have done and in retrospect, what she wished she had done.
Well, we never intervene in domestic American politics.
But right now, you're not in politics in either shape.
Yeah. But what I will say, I want to talk about President Trump. President Trump has been amazing. His strength, his determination to project power in the region commands a lot of respect from all the countries. Or in simple terms, people in the Middle East fear President Trump, which is a great thing. That's what you want. You want countries around the world to respect and fear the American president, and he's done that. His ability to project power and apply power when necessary creates a huge degree of deterrence, and that's critical in this crazy place in the Middle East. You need strength, and weakness does not bring stability. Concessions don't bring stability. And as a peace president, which is what President Trump is, he's developed the best way to bring peace, which is what we're focused on now.
So right now we're trying to get to phase 2, but we can't do that unless all the hostages are returned. The remains are returned. I think how far close are we? 7 or 8?
4 or 5.
4 or 5. Okay, great. So let's say they're sincerely trying to retrieve those bodies. So let's say we can get this, we can complete that very important mission in a week or so. To get to phase 2, Hamas has got to disarm.
That's right.
Right. They have to, so that to get to phase 2, and you got to bring an international force there so the IDF can get out. How close are we?
Well, that's a very big question. Right now, on the ground, Hamas is rebuilding. I have to present the facts as they are. Hamas is rebuilding, is reasserting its control in Gaza at this moment, and it's building up. It'll take time, right, because it's been hit so badly. I'm not sure they will willingly give up their power. Their goal was to stay alive, to keep Hamas going. So a lot of concerted effort of Israel and President Trump may be enough to get it done. But if we let up on it, they'll be there. So we have to get that international force. I hear Indonesia has said we will put in some troops. I hear there's training going on in Jordan and Egypt. Are they Palestinian security forces? We know we don't want UN in there. They've already failed miserably, and Hezbollah and can't be trusted. What does an international force look like that Israel would find acceptable, that would be, most importantly, effective? Well, that's precisely it. I'm talking to my friends in the region. What I seem to be seeing is they are telling us, we're not going to go in and fight Hamas for you. They're telling us very honestly, we'll be willing to come in to keep peace, but we're not going to fight your war, which I can understand. Sure. And therefore, I'm not sure that... Would they arrest people? It's challenging, because imagine an Arab arresting a fellow Arab. They might be considered traitors, or it's a very sensitive issue. I think that it might require Israel to clean up Hamas. I'm saying this reluctantly. We hate fighting. I spent decades fighting Hezbollah, Hamas. How long were you in the IDF? I was 6 years in my base. I was a major in Israel's elite commando unit, and that's what I did. I was fighting Hezbollah, mainly killing Hezbollah terrorists. Now my son My first son Yoni is in the same unit that I served. I'm proud of him and worried. We don't sleep at night when he's out there fighting, but we don't have any choice because the big lesson of October 7th is we cannot allow a crazy, radical terror state grow on our border. Just like you couldn't have that on your Mexican border or Canadian border. We can't assume that we can just defend at the wall, at the border. You have to clean it up on an ongoing basis.
So one thing at your border, you might not, if I'm to believe, my fingers are crossed, you don't have an enemy in Syria anymore. So we saw their president come over here and meet in the White House. He's not ready to sign it to the Abraham Accords. I think that's the least of his worries right now. I don't think he has control of his own country. He's former Al-Qaeda. He said it. I was 19 years old, member of Al-Qaeda when 9/11 was hit. Do you believe you have an enemy in Syria? And we're talking to Prime Minister Neftali right here in our studio.
Well, my experience is to be very skeptic. A guy who was an active terrorist in Al-Qaeda for years and now wears tailored suits, it doesn't mean that he's fundamentally changed. But we should let reality, he needs to prove himself. He needs to show consistently that he's seeking peace. At this time, I would not lay down our defenses. We need to ensure that we can defend ourselves by ourselves.
At least you knew Assad clearly was an enemy.
Yeah.
This has a chance of not being an enemy, and he would be Sunni. They were a majority Sunni country.
Right.
And they were a sect of Shia trying to control the Sunni population, which never worked.
Alawites, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a former Shia, right?
It's not exactly. It's neither Shia nor Sunni.
I acquiesce to you.
Okay, no. It's
Prime Minister, stick around. I want to find out your future and what you want to do in politics. Do you want to run again? Word is you formed a party. You're ready to do that. We'll talk more with Prime Minister Naftali in just a moment. You listen to the Brian Kilmeade Show. Welcome back. We got some more time with the former Prime Minister, maybe future Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett. We're privileged to have him in studio. He's going to be on Sunday on One Nation too. Mr. Prime Minister, have you thought you're going to come back into politics? You're going to run again for Prime Minister. Can you tell us about your platform and your party? And will it be Netanyahu you're looking to take on?
Well, it is going to be.
He wants to run again.
I assume so. It is going to be a head-to-head, him versus me. That's according to all the polls. My goal, flatly, is to make Israel great again. That's the goal. What's happened is for the past decade or so, many aspects of Israel have weakened. Socially, there's crazy polarization. Like everyone's fighting everyone.
Like here.
Yeah, and it's weakening Israel. We don't have two oceans on our side. We're surrounded by enemies. We don't have Canada and Mexico on our borders. We have Hezbollah, Hamas, and ISIS on our borders, and we cannot afford that sort of tearing ourselves apart. President Lincoln said, "A house divided cannot stand," and I think that's a beautiful sentence that applies to Israel. I think to some extent, October 7th would not have happened if we weren't a house divided. What we know now, based on intelligence, is that during year 23, all our enemies saw what's going on in Israel and that we're tearing ourselves apart. Our immune system is growing weaker, and bam, they attacked us at our weakest moment. So I want to unite Israel. I want to strengthen our economy, which is not in a good enough shape. I want to strengthen our international standing, which is not in good shape, and basically revamp Israel.
But you're going to run to the Prime Minister Netanyahu's right. You said he's never really had a conservative opponent. You used to be working with him. You were education minister, right?
Yes, I was education minister, defense minister, and economy minister.
So now you're going to run to his right. That's never been done before.
That's right. In the past, his opponents were always from the left. And since the majority of Israelis lean right, he always won. This time, I think Israel wants two things. The Israeli public wants change. Enough is enough. It's been almost 20 years of Netanyahu running Israel, and we're seeing a lot of issues of corruption and other stuff seething in. But also the Israeli public wants hawkish leadership, tough leadership, and that's why I think I'm in the lead seat.
What's the name of your party?
Right now, it's a tentative name, Bennett 26, but we're going to give that a name.
President today has called on the Israeli courts to pardon Prime Minister Netanyahu. Enough. He says enough. He's done enough. Whatever the situation, he thinks it's petty. Do you agree with the president?
Well, first of all, I have to say on behalf of the Israeli people, we owe huge gratitude to President Trump. What he's done in terms of bringing peace in the Middle East, in the Abraham Accords, in recognizing Jerusalem as our capital, the first president ever to do that.
Didn't hesitate.
Didn't hesitate, and he showed that you can do it. He moved the American embassy to our true capital. Jerusalem has been our capital for about 3,000 years now, but no one else recognized it. So first of all, we highly respect and are thankful to President Trump. We have a judicial system, a legal system in Israel that it requires one to admit guilt and to ask for a pardon. I am not aware that that's happened yet, so this is all premature.
Okay, so you'll hold off for now. So you're going to be running again, and you said Hezbollah and Hamas aren't dead, but real quick, we only have 20 seconds. You're worried about the rise of Sunni governments, too. She is tough enough.
That's right. Turkey, Qatar, Hamas, this is the Muslim Brotherhood. They are the folks that stand behind, ultimately, other strands of ISIS, of Al-Qaeda that did 9/11. We need to fight them.
All right, Mr. Prime Minister, maybe future Prime Minister, thanks so much for the quality time. I know our audience appreciates it, too, right here in New York City. And I look forward to talking to you on Sunday on One Nation. With me in studio is the former chairman of the RNC, Michael Whatley, good friend of the show, who's running to be the next senator from North Carolina. But before we get to Michael, let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
We need to develop a security operation there that is, it doesn't have to be American, but it has to be not connected to Hamas and not connected to the United Nations. Neither of those have been able to deliver. If President Trump can put that in place, then Israel will be secure and safe.
Relentless. The Trump administration's relentless pursuit for peace in the Middle East is laudable and noteworthy as Kushner and Witkoff are back in the region. Aid is pouring in to Gaza, and the ceasefire holds. And by the way, the Houthi rebels have officially halted their attacks.
Number 2.
I said to him, let's go to the place that's the most challenging. And he said, well, we're going to go to Berkeley then. And it was challenging, but I wish it was challenging in a way that was really what this country is set to do, which is free speech. And Berkeley is the home of free speech. And yet all of a sudden, that was the place where free speech on campus was really enshrined at the university.
Turning Point wraps up their Salute to Charlie Kirk tour, and sadly, violence rages in the final stop. This time, there'll be consequences. I'll explain.
Number 1.
The word of the day is terrible, 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 terrible. To quote another Charles Barkley when it comes to Chuck Schumer. Look at this. Least popular Dem Senate leader ever. He's underwater with Democrats. His own party, he's underwater.
It's over. The shutdown should end later today, and Dems infighting rages. It's at a level I didn't think was possible, especially after their stellar performance in last Tuesday's elections. With me right now, a man who knows a lot about elections. He's making sure the RNC would be strong in 2024, and now he's trying to be the next senator to be part of it, all Michael Whatley. Welcome back.
It's good to be back.
All right, so first off, on the shutdown, it's going to officially end in a few hours. Who won?
Well, I don't think the American people won, because what we saw was, 14 straight votes by the Democrats to shut down the government after hearing for 20 years how bad government shutdowns are. Chuck Schumer, I think, is the biggest loser out of all of them. Right now, you look at this guy who argued against shutdowns for decades and then shut down the government, not because of any of the merits. They didn't get any merits done, but it was just because of political posturing, and he put his own political interests ahead of the American people. Shame on Chuck Schumer.
So now in the interim, up until January 30th, when it becomes official, do the Republicans, even if they're not obligated, for the most part, the president's got a big heart for people that's struggling to make ends meet. He's not doing this for the rich. And you could paint it any way you want because he's wealthy. It's just not what he's about. You know that. I know that. But politicians will think differently. So he knows a whole bunch of people can't afford their health care now. So can you get something done substantially in 2 months without renewing subsidies that would cost us $350 billion over the next 10 years to sustain a program no Republican voted for?
Well, you certainly could not have the discussions that we need to have going forward while the government was shut down. So we're glad that that is going to be taken off the table today, and they can get back to trying to figure this out. Look, Obamacare did not work. You know, Obama said and the Democrats said you can keep your doctors. They lied. They said that health care costs were going to go down. They lied. The fact that these subsidies right now are the only thing that are allowing folks to be able to afford the Obamacare premiums is a real problem, and we're going to have to figure this out. And it's going to take a rational conversation that is going to involve the Democrats, not just opposing President Trump.
So, Michael Whatley, you know you're going to get this question too in North Carolina. There's a lot of great people that want to know who they should vote for, and they wonder who's going to be responsible that their premiums are going up. What's your message?
Well, the premiums went up because of Obamacare. Premiums went up during the 8 years that my opponent, Roy Cooper, was the governor of North Carolina. And what we have seen across every perspective is rates are going up, and just subsidizing it the way that Obamacare has not done anything to bring those prices down.
So in North Carolina, that's a seat you guys hope to flip. So Roy Cooper, the Democratic governor, said, okay, I'm done. Now I'm going to run for senator. A lot of people think that's a big win for the Democrats. You see less strength and more vulnerability. In what way?
Well, look, you know, I had a reporter one time ask me that he's going to run on his record. What are you going to run on? I'm going to run on his record. You know, the fact is that he's on the 20% side of every 80-20 issue, that's out there. For example, that he vetoed bills to keep boys out of girls' sports, woke out of our schools, men out of women's locker room. He vetoed balanced budget bills with tax cuts that would help our economy. He vetoed bills to tell sheriffs that they have to honor ICE detainers. We're going to have a real conversation about his record. The biggest issue that we're facing in North Carolina right now is crime. The fact that as governor, he signed an executive order that was going to reimagine law enforcement. He created cashless bail. He created pretrial release. He created the revolving door for criminals that we're seeing all across North Carolina right now. We've got a program we're running called Mugshot Mondays, where we're highlighting people who've been arrested 40 times, 50 times, 70 times in Charlotte and released. That is all on Roy Cooper. These are the issue sets we're going to run on.
You also said that as Roy Cooper, you didn't say it, but it's been reported that Roy Cooper has enraged victims' families when he took 15 convicted killers off death row on his final day as governor.
Yeah, no question about it. He has fought harder for criminals than he did their victims. You know, what we need in North Carolina is somebody like me who's going to fight to create jobs, raise wages, keep our kids and our communities safe, and then make sure that our soldiers, our military men and women in uniform are going to be able to protect our interests and allies around the world as well.
They're by the way, very patriotic state, North Carolina. Everybody knows that. Why do you think a Democratic governor is able to get 2 terms and leave with approval ratings over 50%?
Yeah, North Carolina's a purple state. We're 30% Republican, 30% Democrat, 40% unaffiliated. And the way that generally breaks down is Democrats win governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state. And on the Republican side, Republicans win with members of Congress, with senators, and President Trump carrying all 3 times. Republicans win when we listen to the voters, we understand the issues they care about, and we put solutions on the table.
So what role could the president be a big asset in North Carolina?
The president's going to be a tremendous asset, and me having his endorsement is very significant in North Carolina.
Will you ask him to campaign with you?
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. We want him on the ground down there. He won all 3 elections in North Carolina, 2016, 2020, and 2024, and he is still a force to be reckoned with.
But yeah, President Obama won once, right?
He did.
Yes,
absolutely.
So it could go either way. So it's going to have to be earned.
It is, and it's going to be a very tight election cycle. You know, and
so this is what I keep hearing. Well, Donald Trump's not on the ballot, so the Republicans don't do as well with him not on the ballot, and they got to get used to that. Now, you as a political expert who ran the RNC, I think it's going to seem like Trump's on the ballot this time, because he'll be everywhere. I even think, is it true the Republicans going to have a convention leading to the midterms? Is that there's talk of doing that?
There's a lot of conversation about making sure that we have a big, beautiful event next year, and I think that's going to be really important for us to be able to rally everybody around. You know, you think about what would have happened if Kamala Harris won this election? What would have happened if we have a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate right now? We wouldn't have one big, beautiful bill. We wouldn't have tax cuts. We would have tax increases going into effect on December, or on January 1. You think about where we would be with the border. You think about where we would be with the economy. Thank God President Trump won that election cycle. And I do think that we want to have a conversation about where we are as a country versus where we would have been.
So where you are, you don't have a Tea Party to worry about on your right, and it's not. It's pretty much if you're the people like you aren't being primaried. It seems like Democrats are going through what Republicans went through with the rise of the Tea Party, and people are upset about President Obama, and the Tea Party came up to say Republicans be more conservative than perhaps Mitt Romney was. So this guy, Ezra Levin, who I didn't know anything about, he's an activist. He put together the No Kings rally. Listen to what he says he's going to do. Cut 13.
If there's a silver lining to all this, it's that this capitulation was so complete that it will be impossible to hide. Everybody can see that the party is not up to the task now. And so we should be asking every single Senate Democratic candidate, are you supporting Chuck Schumer for leadership? And if you are, you don't got my vote. You don't get my donation. You don't get my support. You don't get my attention. We're launching the largest primary program in the history of Indivisible. And it's going to be focused not on ideology, but on building a Democratic Party that fights back.
You're not in the business of giving Democrats advice. But if you were the RNC chair and you had a Republican activist saying that, you'd be worried. Should they be worried about what's going on? Is there a fracture there?
Well, there is a fracture there. It's interesting. The Democrats have not learned a thing from the 2024 election cycle. They ran as an open border, inflationary spending, woke, weak America party, and they lost. And they are doubling down on stupid right now, and we're hearing it across that interview and every other conversation on the left, is they're not going to navigate back towards the middle. They're going to double down on all of the same failed policies that they lost on in 2024.
So when people say the party that figures out affordability is going to be the party that's successful. Make it easier to buy the first-time home, make it easier to get a loan, allow people to shop at the grocery store on the budget that they have. What is the recipe for affordability for Republicans?
Well, look, President Trump ran on it and he won on it, right? We need to bring down grocery prices, gasoline prices, and housing prices. And he is fighting every single day.
Some items are, some aren't.
Yeah, gasoline prices are down, energy prices are down, grocery prices are down. We need to see the Fed lower interest rates and help with housing markets right now. And the president is fighting very hard to try and get the Fed to bring those housing prices down. But, what the president wants to do is create jobs and raise wages and make sure that we have a generation that can afford to get married, can afford to have a home, can afford to raise a family. That's what we're fighting for every day.
He was asked that yesterday, was Donald Trump, and here's what he said about lowering costs. Cut 18.
This is the greatest economy we've ever had. Their talking points, costs are high, costs are high. By the way, the only thing is beef.
Coffee.
Is a little high because the ranchers are doing great. Coffee, we're going to lower some tariffs. We're going to have some coffee come in. We're going to take care of all this stuff very quickly, very easily. It's surgical. It's beautiful to watch. But our costs are way lower.
So that's his attitude, and he feels like Republicans have to talk about it more.
We do need to talk about it. The fact is that inflation was 9% under Joe Biden, and we saw housing prices, grocery prices, and gasoline prices go absolutely through the roof. And the president and his administration are working every day to try and bring those prices down. What we need in North Carolina, what I'm going to be fighting for, are policies that are going to create jobs, raise wages, keep our kids in our community safe, and make sure that we have an environment where every family can do better.
So I was talking to Scott Besson today, Treasury Secretary, and he said they put together they opened up a mine for rare earth, and they were able to produce their first magnets in 20-something years. So it's raging in South Carolina. And I said, why? He goes, number one, it's there. Number two is regulations are low. So you're able to get a mine open quickly. If you made somebody open up in California, they would lose money. They wouldn't be able to get the lease. What about North Carolina?
Well, what I think in North Carolina is the same economic policies that we need nationally, right? We need a tax structure that's going to work for families and job creators. We need to make sure that our trade policies are going to work for our manufacturers, our small businesses, and our farmers. And we need regulatory relief, right? Green tape and red tape, those are real things. And we're seeing from the Trump administration a walk back on the federal regulatory state. That is extremely important for job creators.
Is anyone running for the nomination on the right in North Carolina?
We'll wait and see, right? President.
So far, no.
Yeah, right now, President Trump has made it very clear that I am his preferred candidate. I have his endorsement. That is what is going to carry forward in the primary. Look, we're going to run a primary anyway. I want to make sure that we're building up my name recognition and we're introducing me to the voters all across North Carolina. We're not going to rest. We're inside of 12 months now. Right. And so, every single day from now through next November, we are going to be fighting. We're going to go to every community. We're going to talk to every family about the issues that they care about and put solutions on the table.
All right. Thanks so much. Michael Whatley, always great to see you in studio. Appreciate you being in here. Former RNC chair, now working to be the next senator from North Carolina. Thanks, Mike.
Great. Thanks, Brian.
Hey, we are back, and with me in studio is Dr. Marc Siegel, Fox News medical analyst and author of a brand new book out next week, The Miracles Among Us, How God's Grace Plays a Role in Healing. Dr. Siegel, welcome back.
Great to be on with you again, as always.
So far, what's the book tour been like? It hasn't even really officially started yet, right?
I mean, these are pre-orders, but everybody wants a miracle right now. And there's a reason for that. There's so much political divisiveness going on. After the Charlie Kirk assassination, there's so much anger. People that wouldn't even honor his death, that they wouldn't even honor that this was a victim, somebody assassinated. It just brought out the hatred and the rage in our society. And one of the treatments for it is kindness, is coming together, is looking for miracles, understanding there's a greater force than we are, God, and God controls the events of what happens. Knowing that makes people calmer. We should fear God, not attack each other.
All right, so let's talk about something that's number one in the news right now, and that is healthcare. There was a holdout for 7 weeks, ostensibly, people said, because Democrats said we want healthcare subsidies to continue. During the pandemic, you were here every day, multiple times, that they said, well, you had to give subsidies to make sure people had health care, even people with private insurance. Well, the pandemic's over. They sunset. They're done. But now it looks like 23 million people, 93 who are on Obamacare, 93% are going to have their rates go up through no fault of their own to a program they got used to. But if we spend, it's going to cost us $350 billion minimum over the next 10 years. And your thoughts about, as the doctor, when you do your other job, of Obamacare and what went wrong. What was the intent and what went wrong?
Let's start with the fact that I agree with Kennedy, Secretary Kennedy, that we have a sick care system here, not a health care system, that people actually spend less if they exercise more, if they eat better, if they eat healthier foods, if they're not eating junk food all the time. I agree with that. I think we gear our entire healthcare system on what to do once you're already obese, or you have diabetes, or you have high blood pressure, or you have heart disease, or you have cancer. We're spending a fortune on that, and we're coming up with tremendous technologies. But it's becoming more personalized because of artificial intelligence. That means more expensive. How are we going to cover it? The first bait and switch that the Democrats did, Brian, was call it health care when it's actually health insurance. Because if you have an insurance policy that doesn't get you in to see your doctor, or doesn't get you the test I want to order or the treatment, how is that health care? And that's what the Republicans are realizing now. And that's why President Trump tried to simplify it the other night and say, wait, I'm not going to give money into the insurance company cesspool, which is what Obamacare is. It's like, let's pay for these policies that don't provide really good care. They're crummy policies, but let's keep subsidizing them.
Right, but you know some really good people are going to say, wow, I can't afford my health care now with the subsidies gone.
Right.
Here's what Ro Khanna said. He's the Democrat from California, cut 3.
We thought that it would help cover people, and yes, the costs have increased, but it did slow the growth of costs. But ultimately, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. The system is broken. These private health insurance companies have been ripping off the American people, and I believe that what we need to do is expand Medicare, that is actually, especially for people between 50 and 64, that would be the solution. It would also help our manufacturing, it would help our competitiveness, it would lower costs.
Should we expand Medicare for people at 50 who are healthy?
I was with him all the way until he said that, because Medicare is also broken. Medicare has got so much fraud and abuse in it, the way that Oz has been saying, he's right about that we have to first reform Medicare so that it's a streamlined product that actually works also. Neither of these work. The insurance companies sit there in Congress, and they're a big lobby, and they're working together with a drug company lobby, and the public doesn't know how much these things even cost. The prices are skyrocketed, and it's absorbed by the middlemen, and it's only taken out out in your premium. So you're either paying a huge premium for private insurance or a huge amount of tax dollars going to public insurance.
So when you see somebody show up in your waiting room and they say, well, Dr. Siegel, we have someone out there, they have Medicare. What's the reaction from doctors across the country?
Great question, Brian. Here's the secret. Doctors like it a lot less than they did 10 years ago. They like it a lot less than they did 5 years ago. Used to be the advantage of Medicare was it was an unrestricted system. I could order what I thought the patient wanted. I could get it done. Now there's more restrictions on it and it covers less, and it's way more of a pain to deal with. And most importantly, it pays the doctor squat now.
And if I have Obamacare, a lot of people don't use it because the deductible seems so high, correct? So they're definitely not using it for a doctor's visit.
I mean, and like I talked to you about it before I came on, I can get a colonoscopy without a copay. But what if I find something? It could be in the donut hole, and then I can't even get the treatment I need covered. So there are liabilities attached. Narrow networks of doctors, a lot of medical centers not playing ball with it, doesn't give me the care I need to deliver.
So let's talk about your book, The Miracles Among Us. When did you realize there were things that were going on that were beyond medical explanation?
I've known that from the very beginning. I've dealt with miracles from the beginning.
And your wife's a doctor too. Does she feel the same way?
Does who?
Your wife?
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, my wife is a miracle worker. One of the things in this book is that not every doctor that's performing miracles every day knows it or would look at it that way. They're not all religious. 70% are probably driven by faith, but not all. I don't care if a doctor's religious, even if they perform a miracle. Dr. Scalia up in Maryland Shock Trauma, who worked on Bob Redfield's son, Dr. Redfield, former CDC director, is a miracle worker. He says, I'm not a miracle worker. He debates with Redfield whether this is coming from God or coming from his great workers. It's the hands of God.
What happened with his son?
His son got hit in the head and went into a deep coma and wasn't expected to recover at all. He had a blown pupil in his eye, which means he's not going to recover. They took part of his skull off. He was in a coma for months, and then he wakes up. And he wakes up and they say he's still not going to recover. He's just awake. He's not going to recover. Redfield prayed to God every day. He has a group of nuns up in Poughkeepsie that he's known since the AIDS era praying for him. People all over the world praying for him. He knew Pope John Paul II, deeply religious man, praying with his wife. One day his son wakes up. And he wakes up and they say not going to fully recover anyway. But he starts to fully recover. And so Redfield is having lunch with him one day in the lunchroom. He says, what's the matter with your eyes, Danny? Danny says, you can't focus? You can't focus? Danny says, I can't see out of my right eye. So Redfield goes back to God and prays, you promised me a full recovery. I said to Redfield, you criticized the Almighty? Yeah. And Redfield says, why not? And it worked. 2 weeks later, his son could see fully. A month or two after that, he's back on a golf course and driving around.
So, and he subscribed to what you subscribe to. He says, this is not a great doctor. This is great, maybe a great doctor too, but this is a miracle.
It's both. It's God working through great doctors and the divine presence. It's both. In the story Breakthrough, which is in my book, a 14-year-old falls under the ice because he didn't know it was so thin and it was warmer than he thought. He's under the ice for 20 minutes. The emergency responders come. They can't find him. They find the other two boys. They can't find him. His name is John Smith. And a voice comes from the shore. He's 15 feet to the right. And he follows the 15 feet and they find him. There was no one on the shore. The guy whose voice it was back in an office in town. And he said that to me. I interviewed all these people. He comes out of from under the ice, no pulse. They bring him to the emergency room. 50 minutes without a pulse. I said to the doctors in the ER, ever have anyone 50 minutes with CPR? Never. We wanted to call it. He was gone. He was dead. The mother wouldn't let us call it. Never happened in our entire careers. The mother comes to the hospital and starts to pray. And he gets a pulse back immediately. He gets a pulse back. I said to the doctors, anyone ever fully recover from this? Never. They come back sometimes, very rarely, very, very rarely, they'd be brain dead. I interviewed this guy. He's now 19, totally intact, completely with it and functioning.
Wow. And what's your explanation?
God. I think there's no way. It's great doctoring.
Did you talk to the doctors too?
Yes, I talked to 3 different doctors in that emergency room. All of them agree that God's presence was there. By the way, Brian, why would people not want to see it this way? I'm not saying compromise the medicine at all. The medicine is part of this. I don't think because I believe in God that somehow I don't do as good a job. If anything, I'm slow to believe in physician-assisted suicide. I'm slow to go to palliative care. I want to cherish each life. Makes me a better doctor.
My problem with believing in God is that I'm a Giant fan, and how can they be this bad and for this long?
God gives us the miracles he wants us to have, and that's not one of them.
But I'm sorry.
But the Knicks, how about the Knicks?
You know what? It's a very good comeback. Thank you very much. I'm dwelling on the wrong things. Go pick up Dr. Siegel's book, but it's going to be pre-order. It'll be waiting for you, whether you get it on ebook or you want it delivered to your house. It's called The Miracle Among Us, How God's Grace Plays a Role in Healing.